Hello, and welcome to another episode of the TRIFLIX podcast. Today we have Cole Ankney.
Good to be here, man.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you on. He is an entrepreneur, self-made man, and a father now.
Yes.
So I was hoping to have him on to share some of his experience because he is a little more accelerated than I am as far as coming into the business, and get some tips from him as far as the business side goes, but also get to know him personally on his story of how he got to where he is at this point today.
Got lots to share, man.
Got a lot to share.
Hopefully I can help you out.
Yeah. So for people that don't know you, which is, I'm assuming, quite a bit of my base.
Yes.
Who are you?
So again, Cole. I do a bunch of different things. Specifically, podcasting, real estate, photography, entrepreneurship, all of that.
Just a jack of all trades.
Yes, master of none though. That's always got to be in there at the end, because I start a lot of different things and learn a lot about it, but it's never like I got this one thing that I'm laser focused on, which I don't know if you see that much these days anymore, but
yeah, I think it really depends on the person and like their personality, their makeup, because I've found that if you're that type of person that's really creative and what they consider high in openness, which is in psychology, it's one of the 5 traits. If you're high in openness, you're kind of scatterbrained, and it's really helpful to have people that are able to come in and kind of help bolster you, and you give them an idea, and then they just nail it for you.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah, believe me, there's plenty of nights that I sit there and I'm like, I can't sleep because everything's just going ping, 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 ping. Yeah. Because that's just kind of how it goes in there.
Yeah. It's so you have a lot of like just active thoughts, and there's not a whole lot of downtime.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's rare. Like, you know how, and maybe this happens for you, because I don't know if it happens for everybody, but like where you get genuinely tired at the end of the day, and when you lay down, like you have that sense of like, I'm going to go to sleep and this is so nice. Like, I don't get that.
I've thought about having that once, and I was actually going to ask, is that something you wish you had, or do you just take a lot of pride in the fact that you are always being active, whether it's physical or mentally?
I think like some days it would be nice, just because like a day for me can consist of like getting up and like maybe I'll be editing a shoot, and then being a dad, and then doing real estate, fitting in being a dad again, and then by the end of the day, you've worn so many different hats that you just want to take them all off, and you're like, can I just
rest?
I just need like that downtime just for a little bit. Like, I'm not talking like days. Like, I'm not like one of those like, where's my vacation? I got to take a vacation. Yeah. But like, give me just a little time to relax.
Yeah. Do you get to take those somewhat?
Every once in a while.
Every once in a while.
Like, you got to find that personal time. Yeah. Like, that was one of the biggest things for me going into all of it. Like, I need to be able to not punch a clock so that I can define my own clock, so that I can find that time, whether it's with the girls or, with girlfriend or whatever it might be. It just depends.
Yeah. So, entrepreneur, how long have you been in this industry? It sound like you're doing a little bit of marketing, a little bit of real estate. Maybe that was the bread and butter. Like, how long have you stepped away from more of a traditional role and come into this?
So it's been a long time. I mean, when I was little, I mean, like, we're talking like pre-high school, probably got my driver's license, right? We were out there mowing yards and, picking up leaves and stuff. But I had a whole, like, I made the logo and it had a name, and we were making invoices that were specific to the company. And, there was a website, and we were doing the whole thing, and I was tracking everything in an Excel spreadsheet. Wow. And it just like started there. And then I had to get, I don't know, my dad told me, he's like, you got to get a real job. So I was like, okay. So I delivered pizzas. And so it was like, okay, I guess I'll do that for a little while. Like, that was fun. But again, like, I ended up running the front end because no one knew how to work the computers. And so they're like, hey, like, you know how to do that? I had 2 separate pays. One, they'd pay me to, extra money to fix the computers or like do IT. And then the other one, they'd be like, hey, go deliver pizzas, and then I went to college and I served, and so I did tables and stuff like that, and it was at a restaurant, which was great, made good money and met a lot of cool people, but I'll never do it again. And so I want
Pizza or a 9 to 5?
Pizza and the 9 to 5.
You don't think you'll ever go back?
No way.
Really?
Could never go back.
And why would that be?
It was like the structure, because I honestly, and I don't want this to sound like too awfully arrogant, but I always felt I could do it better.
Yep.
And so you're like, what's the point? Like, because I just saw so many people running their business into the ground, and you'd be going, but it's so easy. Like, you got to pay attention, and you got to be a good boss, and you got to pay attention to your numbers, and you got to run the business. And so many people were just sitting back, and it was literally setting itself on fire. And you were like,
yeah,
man, you have something here, but you're not willing to kind of take it and grow it and get it to where it needs to be.
Yeah.
And so that was always very frustrating. So, one day I walked in, and they were like, hey, why are you at work? And I was like, because it's my time to work. And they were like, you're done. And I was like, for the night? And they were like, no, forever. And they were like, we're shutting down the restaurant. And so literally from then on, and that was probably like 2009, something like that. From then on, that was it.
Yeah. I
was like, nah, I'm not going back. And so from then on, I've always just been on my own, whether it was, I started with web design. I worked for an appraiser. I just did everything I could to continue through.
So it sounds like you've been doing entrepreneurship basically since the start. And as long as you can see, that's pretty much the path that you want to stay on.
Yes.
Yeah. So whenever you were mentioning, like, sometimes I think we can use this as like a cautionary tale for people that are watching that may either have a business, want to start a business. You said that they were running their business into the ground. Was there like some key things that stuck out in your mind as like, hey, like, these are things I learned from it, and I know not to avoid them with your own business?
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is like, that's why when you said it the first time, and that's why I kind of started to laugh a little bit, because like alcoholism, or like letting your kids work in the back, right, and like smoke weed all day, like, okay, hey, like, those might be some things that you might avoid.
Those are a little more obvious.
Yes, those are the more obvious things, but I will say I think some people have a better knack for it. Not gonna lie. I think that you can sometimes see somebody and maybe they want it so bad, but they just can't figure out, like, it's just not in them. They need a little bit more structure. They need somebody there to also be like, hey, like, you should probably be here in between this time and probably finish these tasks. Yeah. Somebody that needs those goals and those tasks day by day. And if no one's giving them and they don't have them, then where are you going to go? Yeah. But I'd say probably, in general, you got to be knowledgeable about your business, and you got to be willing to run it ethically and the correct way. Yeah. I think all of those things come into play. Like, those were all the kind of violations, I'd say, that I saw over that period of time.
Yeah. So well, I mean, without going into too much detail, I think that's like pretty good advice.
Yeah. Hey, be ethical
and
treat your customers correctly.
Treat your customers, treat your employees well. Customer service is honestly one of the best ways. And even though I'm in marketing, and it sounds like you with your own real estate business, you're in marketing as well. Like, at the end of the day, that customer satisfaction and word of mouth is still going to be the best way to market to people.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge.
It carries so much weight.
Yeah, because you can say whatever you want, right? I mean, we can all generate an image or a graphic that says this is what we do, and this is how we back it. We're 5-star. Yeah. You can say that all day long, but until you actually have clients that are sitting there going, I've worked with them, they did X, Y, and Z, and they got me, for us, they got me to the closing table. Then you're like, great, okay, that's a reason to use us. Yeah.
It's like you're 5-star in regards to the quality. Like, we can visually see the image, but then you check their 5 stars on Google reviews, and it's actually like a 2.
Yes.
Like, there's a difference between the quality of work that they can produce and then the quality of customer service and care that goes with it.
Yep. And that's huge. Yeah. Customer service is everything.
Yeah. So what, like you'd mentioned the real estate. What has been like your, I guess, life's journey from the time you quit the pizza place to the point that you are now, like, is there like a 5-minute summary or maybe a little something brief?
Yeah, I can give you something brief because there's a lot in there.
I imagine there probably was.
In between all that, let's see. I can just use like words like marriage, babies, businesses.
Okay.
And then divorce and what else? And I quit school and depression and rockiness. And then finally it all comes back around. I got off my butt one day after everything that had happened, called a family friend and said, I'm getting my real estate license. And I did. And that kind of brings us to today.
All right. Okay. So normally, like, if somebody was like, hey, yeah, briefly, like, it's like minor things, but it sounds like you've had a very eventful life, even in the short mid-20s.
Yeah, 26.
26. Okay,
Yeah.
so only 3 years more than me.
Yeah.
But that's a lot to experience. Let's go back to the kid. Let's actually like break this down because this sounds a lot more interesting.
I told you it would be. There's a lot to it.
So you had one kid?
Yeah.
Okay.
At first.
Girlfriend or just friend at the time?
So at the time, girlfriend.
Okay.
So we had been together for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, she called me one day and found out I was having a kid. So
yeah,
that was kind of crazy.
Somewhat exciting, somewhat scary, I'm sure.
Very scary.
Yeah.
A lot of scary.
Yeah. Because you were probably 20-ish.
Yeah, I was probably, I want to say by that point, I was probably 20. Yeah. So, I mean, I was in school. I had been in school. I had major plans for my life.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, at that point in time as well, they did not exactly, in my head, involve her. So things changed drastically with that moment. But I knew I needed to step up, and it took some time, but I went ahead and just, was like, we're going to do this. We're going to make this happen. And we did what we had to do. So.
And then wedding bells.
Yeah. Kind of, went to the courthourthouse.
Yeah. As you do at 20.
Yeah. Right. So went and did that. And that was one of those things too. I mean, you look back and I'm like, I wish I would have maybe put a little bit more time into it, but it was such a crazy time. I mean, things were happening so fast, and I was very overconfident. Like I was like, I got this, let's just rock and roll. And so like, I mean, it was literally one of those things where, I think we got married in August. So, and then we had our first in January. So, I mean, she's pregnant, so we went and did that, and I went to work afterwards.
Yeah.
It was on to the next thing. Right.
All right. And what was the next thing?
So the next thing would have been, I was at that moment in time, like there was some overlap where I was living with my brother, and, then she came into the picture with the kid and everything. I wasn't going to kick my brother out. So we all kind of did our thing for a little while. And in the midst of all that was when my brother and I had started our company, Ruxflow.
Ruxflow.
Yes. So we wanted to make skate clothing for skateboarders.
Yeah, for the Midwest, of course.
For the Midwest, exactly. So we started the whole thing in our apartment. We put everything together. I mean, he was kind of an aspiring graphic artist, so we put everything together, figured it all out. I spent all the money to do the LLC, was just like kind of frantically putting things together because I was like hoping something would stick before that time, where I really got to jump in and help take care of this baby because it wasn't quite there yet. So, all of that stuff happens, we have the kid and we're kind of running everything. And I find out, I moved and everything. The business was doing well. We were in a skate shop. Like we were in a local skate shop and we were selling and we were making money back, which was great because, the initial investment was still there. We were still technically in the red.
Right.
So I was like, okay, we got to work ourselves out of this. We've got local were working with us. I mean, we were really trying to make it happen. I had done a website. We were getting there.
Yeah.
And then I found out I was having kid 2.
Oh.
Which I was like, okay, whatever. I got the first one.
You were married at this point, right?
Yeah, I'm married at this point.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay,
yeah,
bring it on.
We can do it.
Yeah, right. Like, yeah, well, we'll see. So I told my brother, I'm like, hey, man, I would love if you'd run the company, because like there's a lot to all this, and I really just need to focus on bringing some money in and finishing school. I mean, it was all happening at the same time. So he was like, no. Okay, that works. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Well, he probably had valid reasons for declining.
Yeah, I mean, he had his own path, right? So I was like, sure, okay. So I just kind of like, I pulled out of the skate shop, and I had all the inventory at my house, like probably up until like last year.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just pulled everything out, had it with me, and we just, at that point in time, it was just like, I got to do something else. So I was going to school for website design. So I just started doing websites for clients and started making money doing that.
Yeah.
And that worked out great. But then kind of skipped towards like the hard times. That was when there was just one day she kind of woke up and she was done. And I was like, okay, kind of blindsided me big time.
Right.
Because I honestly, like at that point in time, like, I don't know, I kind of felt like I had the world in my hands, right? You know, I mean, I got the wife, I got the kids, and I'm
decent income at that point, right?
Yeah, decent income. Like I'm making it, like I'm not killing it, but like I'm able to pay the bills and feed 4 people, and she didn't have to work. Mm-hmm. So great. So then that comes around. That was actually February of like 17 now. So all that goes down, and then that's like a year process.
Yeah.
So, the first 6 months I quit working because I could, and I didn't want to do anything. I was depressed. I was just like sat on my butt and was trying to figure out life. I mean, it was just contemplating everything, going back and going, what did I do? Yeah. What happened with this?
Were you able to see the kids regularly throughout that time, or was there a little bit of like significantly more separation than like a every other weekend type thing?
I want to say it was pretty sporadic. But I was still getting a good amount. Mm-hmm. I mean, I fought for that pretty hard from the get-go.
Yeah.
Because no matter what, like, I don't care what anybody says, like, I was always there.
Yeah.
And it was weird. It was weird not to see him when I came home. Mm-hmm. It was weird to come home to an empty house. Like, honestly, that was the hardest part of all of it.
Right.
Was going, oh, wow, you went from, like, craziness, like, all the time, kids yelling and screaming and running around and, like, always having something to do, to coming home and it's just, like, crickets.
Well, that sounds peaceful for somebody that wanted rest.
Correct.
But was it?
It wasn't.
No.
There was nothing peaceful about it, because I was battling so many demons trying to figure out, like, I was convinced at that point in time that it was my fault. Mm. So I'm sitting there going, like, what did I do wrong? What do I need to change in my life? Because I'm not one of those people that just takes stuff like that and goes, that's not me, and throws it away.
Why am I not good enough?
Yeah. I'm like, something has to be, something's wrong. I have to fix this. Like, what can I do to improve myself?
Right.
I will say it took the first week, and, because I know a lot of people go off the deep end.
Yep.
It took the first week, and I only went out twice, and didn't, nothing nuts, nothing crazy, but just needed to, blow off some steam. And a week later, like, I was sitting on a park bench, looking over a pond, and at that moment in time, like, I saw my whole marriage like flash before my eyes. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how you feel about all this, but like to me, like at that moment in time, like I'm a huge man of faith.
Yeah.
So like it was one of those things where I felt like it was the closest way of communicating with him, but without legitimately obviously having a conversation.
Right.
But I felt like at that moment in time, he was like, yo, look at your life. And like, and not that I had done anything crazy. I'm not beating on people. I'm not doing anything like that. But like, I took my life for granted. I took those things for granted because I thought like, it's here. It'll never go anywhere.
What part of the life that you've lived so far you've taken for granted? I mean, like, it sounded like you had a pretty good up to, like even with 16, like you were starting a business. Like,
yeah,
it's really easy, I think, for anybody, especially the more creative people that never finish anything and we just start a ton of projects.
Yeah.
We're always looking for the next big deal, like the next big project, the next big idea that we have, and then we'll go 110% for a couple months, couple weeks, couple days, whatever, and then it burns out. So all we ever look to is the future, And whenever you do that, you never take time to reflect and acknowledge, like, hey, like we actually had pretty good, times.
Yep.
And I don't know if this would relate as much to, whenever you see your life flashing or your wife, how would I word that? Your previous marriage flash before your eyes.
Yes.
Like, maybe it's not that you didn't like take advantage of the moment, but you just didn't appreciate while it was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a great way of putting it.
Okay.
That's exactly it. Just, and it's, it's funny the way that marriage is portrayed. You know what I mean?
In Disney or in what?
Well, I guess I want to
happily ever after, right?
Let's just say, and I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking maybe, let's just say, in the Christian community.
Okay.
It's the man is king, and that in certain ways that can go to your head, without even knowing it.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I expect you to have vacuumed, or I've expected you to have done the dishes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you start to go down that path where you expect that to be done. And when it's not done, sometimes you can be a you-know-what.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that's not good for any relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I take that full on. I totally know what I did, and those were the things that I saw in that moment.
So you said you had time to reflect on it after the events that occurred. And generally, whenever something bad happens, people either learn from it or they don't. So I'm curious, it sounds like you have a takeaway. So have you found ways to become more appreciative?
Yes. Oh yeah. So after I kind of had that moment of realization, I actually went home, and this was a big deal for me. Went home, called my church, and set up a counseling appointment.
Oh.
And I went to counseling for a full year, every week.
Why is that a big deal for you?
Well, it was weird for me to go and seek out help from somebody I just didn't know.
Yeah.
To go, hey, just put me in front of anybody that you think can help, and I'll talk to them.
So you don't normally reach out, or prior to that event, you'd never had really reached out to anybody?
Nope. Because I normally, I either deal with it myself, or like, I have family and stuff, and we're all really close, which is helpful, but it would never came to my mind that it was like, okay, right? Like counseling, like, oh, you got to go to counseling because you're crazy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
okay.
It's got a negative connotation to it,
does.
right? Mm-hmm. So with that kind of like idea in your mind, or the way society paints it, that's like how I felt about it. And so that's why it was like really crazy for me to go, hey, like, I just need the help.
Yeah. There was a guy that we've had on here before. His name is Brian Kendrick, and he helps people through recovery processes, primarily with addiction, so alcohol and different forms of drug. And one of the things that he has voiced, or I don't know if this was his original thought, but it was an idea that he shared, and that's everybody is either currently or previously struggling. I think he said specifically addiction, but I think it just kind of carries over to recovery.
Yeah.
Everyone's either in the recovery process or is kind of getting like right through through the hedges of it, right?
I can see that.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I think that there's always that trend, I mean, we tend to, unfortunately, as humans, we only tend to learn the most from the most horrible events in our lives. Mm-hmm. And only by those happening do we learn anything, instead of just, learning about them and learning to avoid them.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, when I was growing up, I saw people go through difficult things in life. And at a young age, I realized, like, hey, if I ask enough questions, if I pay attention enough, and I learn from other people, then I don't have to go through all these bad things. And the full reason for it wasn't to become more wise. And the more I reflect on it, it was just to avoid pain and to avoid difficulties, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
And as much as I feel like I got skilled at asking moderately good questions for someone at a younger age, like 7 to 15 or whatever that bracket was. And, but I realized I never learned quite the same. Like the messages didn't stick the same as if I had gone through something difficult and then overcame it. Mm-hmm. Those messages last longer. And it's like if someone says, don't put the keys or a penny in the electrical socket, it's like, yeah, whatever, don't. You do that once, you'll never forget it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You will, every time you see an electrical socket, you will have a physical reaction, not just, hey, don't do that, but like, and that's a very hyperbolic and more comical response to drug addiction or divorce or like whatever, like starting a company. Like,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
oh, it sounds like a great idea. And then you try it and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so much harder than I expected.
Exactly.
But once you do it, you know, you become more aware of ways to handle it more appropriately in the future, or what to look out for in the future.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I always tell people, like, I don't regret anything that's ever happened. You can't, you know,
It
it
eats you up
happened.
inside.
Yeah, it'll eat you up. Exactly. And so I'm like, I don't regret it. I've learned so much from it. And it's been insane to see those lessons from all of it, like that I've been able to apply to life. And my relationships are through the roof better.
Yeah.
Especially, you know, getting rid of some of that arrogance.
Yeah.
Some.
Okay. There's a difference between pride and arrogance, and hubris and all those. I think you can have pride in yourself, and sometimes that and too much of anything could be a negative thing. But
Yes.
if you take pride in your work, I think that's something somewhat admirable. You know, if you're doing real estate photos for somebody and, you know, you send them to them with a smile on your face and you're not like, oh, I nickel and dime that guy.
Yeah, right.
I made an extra $50. What a dummy. But if you're sitting to him with a smile and you're like, wow, I really, you know, like I want the best for this company. I want the best for this client, or whether it's a family member, whatever the case is. So I think there's some value to it.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. Hopefully maybe not too much on the arrogance though.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, and like you said, pride's different too. Got to be careful of pride.
Yeah. So with taking some steps out of the depression, you know, you went out, you sought out the help.
Yes.
Sometimes people are gifted and people will approach them, but yeah, I think there's a lesson there about if you need help, there's nothing wrong with asking for it.
Yeah. Yeah. It made a huge difference.
Yeah.
I made a friend too.
Yeah,
which was nice.
That's always good.
So
those are the friends for life too.
Yeah.
The ones that see you at your worst and don't turn you away.
Yeah. No, that's exactly
pretty cool.
Yep. It made a big difference. So
once you finished up, I assume it's still a reoccurring process of recovery, emotionally and probably mentally as well. Does that lead us to where you're at today, or is there a couple more things in between?
Yeah, no. So that pretty much leads us to today, because like I said, you know, once I finally started dragging myself out of that, you know, kind of self-pity and, you know, like,
woe is me.
Exactly, right? And the pain of all that. Once I was able to kind of pull myself out of that, and I knew that I could focus on something again, like I knew I needed to be in the right mental state to be able to move on and move forward. And for me, that meant, because, you know, she had kind of asked me to stop doing the website business. Just money wasn't stable. You know, it was coming in, but you can't count on anything every 2 weeks or anything like that.
Yeah.
And that's what she wanted. So I said, okay, was done with that. Quit school. She didn't want that either. So I was trying to put it back together. So then after all that, pulling myself out, that's when I was like, I need to find something else to do again because I have no money, you know?
Yep.
So I called a family friend of mine and was like, I'm going to get my real estate license. How do we do this? And
were they realtor or had experience? Okay.
Yeah. For like 30 years worth of experience.
Nice.
Yeah. So I was like, I knew who to call. So I was like, yeah, I need to make this happen. They're like, are you sure? I'm like, oh, heck yeah, I'm ready for this. I'm like, I've done sales, I've done all that stuff. I'm like, I can do it. I've watched you do it since I was a little kid. So I went out and got it done. It took time, and that was a huge battle as well. It took me 4 times to ace the test.
You have to ace it?
I mean, you know, sorry, to pass it, I should say. Ace is the wrong word.
You have very high standards. You're like,
yeah.
Yeah, I actually got it the first try, but I just wanted to ace it, so I made it 4.
Just had to get 100%. Sorry. And that was
going back to the pride,
right? Yeah, I take a lot of pride in my test taking.
Okay, so you got it.
So I got it, and that was what that had been March of something 18. Yeah, March of 18. It's hard to keep all this stuff straight, man. Yeah. So I get that done, and I'm pumped, and like ever since then, I mean, just the mindset. I've been so much more grateful about what's happened, and I try to be so much more mindful about where God works in my life and how I need to try to be humble and I've worked on my relationship with my girls. It's been exponentially better as they get older, which is great. I have a girlfriend now. And
you do or you don't?
I do.
Oh, nice.
And things
like, well, not anymore, honey.
Yeah, right. Thanks, Tristan. No, so I mean, so that's been going great because I can actually I can notice the things. I can pay attention. Nothing's ever going to be perfect. I'm a guy.
Yeah.
And I always tell her that. But
there's always something to fix.
Always. So I'm just try to keep that list to a minimum the best I can. So just and it's been more than anything in business. It's been such a driving point for me because I think back and I think about where I was and maybe where I could have been, and it was I was holding myself back because of ego and arrogance, because I really needed to take a step back and look at the world in a different way and go, okay, this needs to be approached completely different. And ever since I did that, things have finally started to stick because, obviously now you've heard, I've tried different things.
Yeah.
Not everything is stuck.
Definitely open.
Yes.
Very high in the openness trait, I would assess.
Yes.
So, you were mentioning that you've become more grateful. Is there steps that you take, or it was just one day in the park you had a vision and then all of a sudden it's yeah, this is all great. I can't believe I didn't acknowledge all this awesome stuff before.
Excuse me, sorry. I don't want to say that I wasn't before, but it was finding gratefulness in smaller things. Because it's easy to say, I'm so grateful that I have money, or I'm so grateful that I bought this new phone, or you know what I mean, or I'm so grateful I have parents. I mean, there's easy big things that you maybe take for granted that you're just I'm grateful for that. But it was the little things, that somebody maybe took the time to sit down and talk to you or ask you questions about how you're feeling or how you're doing, or it was just the fact that maybe I woke up that day and was able to walk out the door on my own 2 feet and get in my vehicle and, put gas in it under my own power. You know what I mean? Just the ability to actually that you're waking up that morning and living life.
Yeah.
And the fact that I'm not, that I don't live in a country where, if I go to drink the water outside, it could be poison.
Yeah.
I mean,
Is that what you think about regularly?
I do.
To keep yourself humble?
I do.
Nice.
Well, and I know it sounds cheesy, but it is kind of true. You have to think about the fact that somebody else out there has it way worse than you. So why are you complaining? Because it's the truth.
Yeah.
And we lived a very privileged life.
I think I'm trying to remember the actual stat for it, but a lot of times people complain about the 1% in the United States,
yes.
Which I'm not going to share any of my personal opinions on that matter. But if you look at a global population, if you make over $30,000 a year, this is based on a study that I've read probably about a year ago. So,
okay.
But for all intents and purposes, if you're around that ballpark of 30 grand, you're in the top 1% of the world.
Yeah.
So it's so easy to hey, look at this guy with all his money and what's he doing with it? But at the same time, I understand there's bills, you have family, you have kids, there's so many things that you have responsibilities for, and it's hard for people to acknowledge that as hard as you have it, you still are considered not in the 1 percentile. And that's insane. Is that 1% or 99 percentile? I always invert whenever I do the fraction.
Yeah, right. It probably would
the percentages. Yeah. You're up there. You're in the top.
Right. You're in the top. Yeah. Leave it at that. No, I get that though. I mean, that's the point of it all is you gotta kind of backpedal a little and go, hey, should I really be complaining that this line is so long at Starbucks? Those are the things that would have irritated me before. I would have not gone. But now I'm you know what? What's the point?
Yeah.
What do I really have to do that's so important that I gotta honk at the guy in front of me?
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Are you the guy that waits at one car behind at the red light, 0.5 seconds, and the light changes, and you're just You're hitting that Audi horn.
No, not going to happen.
Not anymore?
Nope. I never did that.
Oh, okay.
I don't think that's nice. I'm sorry.
I don't do it personally. But what is the future for you? And as far as you can see, what does your future look like? What are your goals?
Definitely business wise, like I would hope to be able to continue to cultivate what I have currently. I know there's a very bright future in the real estate business. I've been very blessed that I stepped into something that had a fantastic foundation. Our team Royale, they had, my grandma is the person I called. So she's been doing it for 30 years. She knows what she's doing. She's got quite a client base, and the fact that there's a point in time that, she's not going to be doing it anymore, and I can continue the legacy, especially with the same last name. I mean, all of that just helps with familiarity so that those clients will continue to come back and we can continue to service them into the future. Yeah. That's huge. Because it's hard to get in, especially right now. There's so many people doing it. It's hard to get in and start your own thing. You got to be hungry and be pushing really hard, because it can happen. Don't get me wrong, but it was really nice to come in and not that they're throwing me leads every day. Don't get me wrong. I'm building a business here. Yeah. But it's nice to know that if at some point, when she isn't there, that there is an opening, there's a book there that I can use that will help to continue grow the business. And we've talked about a lot of different things, nothing I can discuss on here, but unfortunately, but
bummer.
A lot of different future possibilities for our team and what happens from here. This last year, we actually just expanded for the first time, added 2 more people on, and that's something that definitely wouldn't have happened in the past. Yeah. But we're bringing them into the future of marketing and everything that comes with it. So it's made a huge difference, and I expect that to go far. Yeah.
Which I assume what is your involvement with the marketing and the branding side of your guys' Royale?
All of it.
All of it? So that's you.
All of it. Yeah. So when I came on, that was the team name, Team Royale. They had already had a logo and stuff, which I had coincidentally made in the past. But when I came on, everything was kind of outdated. So I was like, hey, I took the first year and rebranded everything. So I said, let's rebrand, let's make a new website. Let's make sure that we kick off 19 the right way. Because like our company, Carpenter, that's above us, kind of our brokerage, because you have to have your license underneath the brokerage. They provide marketing materials and everything. But to be honest, I was like,
we can do better.
They're fine, but I think we could do better. Exactly. Yeah. So we make everything now on our own. Yeah. And we're doing walkthrough videos and social media posts and, all of our photography. Everything's in-house within the team, which helps us also drop our turn times when it comes to getting listings online. Yeah. So all of it helps us to kind of give us that edge when it comes to marketability, whether it's with buyers or listers. It makes a huge difference.
So, I mean, I assume then that you're recommending this to other realtors in the area. If they're not already doing this, then they're behind.
Yeah. No, it's the truth, because so I don't know how much you pay attention to stuff like this. I would kind of call him an influencer. But if you're not in the real estate world, you might not see this sort of stuff. But Ryan Serhant,
does he do like remodels and stuff like that, or?
So he's just a real estate broker in New York. He has his own firm now. But he started off just kind of that guy. He was trying to be an actor in New York and got his real estate license. I'm finishing his book now. But now they do like 100 million in volume a month. Wow. It's insane. So he's kind of like, I watch everything he does and I try to replicate it within our market. Of course, he's selling $100-some million, like townhomes in New York, but that's why I'm like, but why can't I in Indiana recreate, hey, let's do a walkthrough video. Let's try to show that we have personality and we can not just sell a house, but like sell it with style and presence and, awesome marketing.
It is kind of refreshing to work, or I guess just have a conversation with somebody that fully admits to what do they call creative theft. So a lot of times when you work in creative industries, there's people don't want to admit it, but everybody steals.
Oh, yeah.
And there's actually a book. It's like how to steal like an artist or something along that lines, which explains basically the unwritten rules of what is and isn't acceptable in terms of this is my brand and you're stealing it versus this is somebody I find inspiring and I'm looking up to and I want to take away some sort of message or key method. And we've had several people on the show so far that in a way have all kind of explained what it was that inspired them, you know. So we've had a filmmaker, Abhishek Sadam came on, and he was explaining that like growing up, films are such a big part of like India culture, and then you know it just kind of led him in through a very long process into making short films himself.
Yeah.
And I mean that happened to him at a very young age, but if you find somebody even later in life, that's totally fine. If you can find a way to bring that something that inspired you or that you find entertaining or educational, inspirational, whatever the case is, and find a way to make that your own, then if anything, you're taking somebody's message and finding a way to share it with other people.
Yep. And he's been very, you know, that's the nice thing about Ryan is like he's been very open about the fact that like that's what he's trying to do, you know, and he's totally like one of those people that'll go, use it, do it. Mm-hmm. You know, I want you to be successful. I'm trying to teach you how to be successful. Take these methods and apply them to your business. Mm-hmm. Why would you not? Yeah. You know, no one has a hold on any of these types of
They're
marketing.
Ideas for the most part, you know.
Exactly.
It's like, how can you own an idea?
Exactly. Yeah, you can't. So,
and the fact that he's so open about it that's really cool. I'm sure somebody probably taught him all these things and now he's passing it on as well.
Well, you see, that's the funny thing, right? Is like he's learned as he's gone along from watching people, yes. But like the first real estate agent he ever went to, the top producer in his firm that he was like, I want to learn from, because he knew he needed to learn from somebody. Mm-hmm. He said when he started, he sucked, which we all kind of do.
Naturally.
So he goes to this guy and he pretty much told him to, you know, was Bye. Like, I'm not going to tell you anything. Why would I tell you? And he kind of walked away and was like, well, dang, you know, like, why you got to be like that? And so that was huge. That was a huge part of his life. So now that he's, you know, where that guy was, probably exponentially higher than that guy was now, he's like, why would I not share?
Plus, he can market it and make way more money off the marketing than he probably does in the real estate. Hypothetically, he could. I don't know what his actual numbers are, of course.
There's got to be stuff. I mean, because now he's even, you know, he's got the book, which was huge. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, then that explains it all. He was on $1 Million Listing. Mm-hmm. That was a big show. I think he's still on it. And then he just started selling like seminars and stuff. Yeah. So, you know, like $5,000, you can come meet me and I'll teach you business secrets. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And people are going to pay the money. People do that stuff all the time. And so you're like, why not? Why not take advantage of it? Why not capitalize on that?
Yeah. So when you were growing up, what was your original vision after the pizza market? Like, you knew you wanted to do your own thing. Did you have any aspirations for real estate at all, or just straight marketing?
I thought that I'd probably be doing digital marketing, website design, stuff like that.
Which in turn, the way I've just listening to your story, it sounds like everything that you've done as far as business, you found a way to tie that into what you're currently doing.
Yes.
And had you not had those opportunities, you wouldn't be nearly as good at it now.
Yes. That's exactly it.
Dude, that's amazing.
Yeah. It all works. It all works. All the past stuff works to the future. That's why I said I don't regret anything, because it's all work to the future. And I can't look back and
better
say
at your job, better at your relationships, better at being a dad.
Yep.
That's good.
It makes a difference, man.
It does.
Because life's tough.
Yeah. So it sounds like it. Yeah. I usually ask about like the evolutionary process of people's mindset, but I think as you broke down, you know, like all of your life pretty much into a 5-minute conversation, that pretty much covers all of the evolution, unless there's something else that you'd like to add to that.
I mean, other than the fact that, you know, like it helps a guy to get to 25, you know, because that's when our brains finally fully develop. Like, and believe me, I believe in that.
Man, I always forget that. Like, I mean, I feel like people are really hard on themselves, but I've been told I'm exceptionally harder, and that's actually good to hear. I kind of, you know, it's nice to know that every once in a while.
It's the truth, though. I honestly feel like there was something about after that 25 mark, you know, like, and I know with everything that happened in life, I mean, it's made a big difference as well. Don't get me wrong. It's matured me in a good way, but just all of that kind of happening and then, like, you know, developing the rest of the way. I think that just that it helps you to start to be more of a functioning male in society instead of less of a troublemaker.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's actually, like, as far as mythology goes, the story of Beauty and the Beast is it represents like the primal aspects of the male. Like, you're a troublemaker, you're a monster, you're a beast, like you can't be contained. And then along comes a person, in that story it's a female that longs to tame the male, and it's very clear that she doesn't want the male that's already well kempt and well groomed. Like, the thing that she finds more interesting is the beast.
Yep.
And she finds a way to tame him. Now, it sounds like your story may not necessarily follow that exact line, but the point is you were a troublemaker, and over whether the mistress was an actual female or your own pride and ego ripping you apart.
Yep.
You grew up.
Yes. Yes.
That's great. That's
mistress.
That is
Let's not use that word.
Yeah.
For the record, there was no mistress.
There was no mistress, no. But you know,
I was faithful.
That's good. Let's deviate those two thoughts for a minute.
It's funny that you bring up Beauty and the Beast, and then you start to dissect it that way, and I'm like, yeah, I've seen it so many times. I really just don't like to think about it.
Yeah, you got kids. You probably see all the Disney movies now.
Yeah. We just watched Toy Story 4, so.
I haven't seen it. Is it sad? I heard it's really sad.
It was sad.
Bummer.
Yeah. So just be ready for that one. They get you good.
Yeah, it's been out for long enough. I don't deserve a spoiler alert. You can share it if you want.
No, that's okay, because somebody else is gonna get mad at me. You know,
probably.
Like, Disney stuff is a big deal.
It is. I know people that like have kids, but choose not to take the kids to Disneyland with them. So they go on like their own like little retreats. I'm like, I don't get it. You want to do it? That's up to you, man.
I don't get it either. My girlfriend's all about it. I'm just like, I can't buy into all that.
Yeah. So it sounds like you've had a very eventful life, and coming into this marketing role, like, there was a lot of people that either didn't value it or just hadn't taken the time to reassess the marketing side of the real estate market, especially for Royale as you came into it. Are there, and I guess it doesn't have to be limited to marketing, but what are the biggest misunderstandings that people have either about you or your line of work or the real estate market in general? Is there anything that really stands out to you?
Yeah, no, for sure. I do want to say that, like, most people don't, it depends on your volume. It depends on, like, the size of your team. It depends on a lot of factors on what players you do have. Because most people, it's one person and they do it all.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you are the marketer, you are the, you know, whatever, you're the financial person, you're the lister, you're the seller, you do everything.
Mm-hmm.
So with us, it's just nice that we have the ability to break things apart, because we have extra people.
Yeah.
But I will say, I feel like one of the biggest misconceptions is everybody always wants to think that we're just like nasty old greasy salesman, you know, just as bad as a car salesman.
Ooh, shots fired.
Are you a car salesman?
No, but geez, you just what if our viewership is 100% car salesman and you just shot them all in the foot?
Well, that's unfortunate, but let me go a little further. Okay. Okay. So that's a stereotype, though. But when I say it, you can picture it, can't you?
Yes.
When I say car salesman, there's
a very negative stereotype around it.
Thank you. So what I'm getting at by using that as an example, sorry, car salesman, because you're not all bad, but most of the ones I've dealt with are. Not recently though. Shout out.
Yeah, to the Audi.
Yeah. Although it was funny because I bought it from a Chevrolet dealer because it was used, and I got in the car to test drive it, and the guy goes, I hope you did your research because I know nothing about this car.
At least he was honest.
Yeah. And I was like, nah, I appreciate that, man. His name was Buck. He's awesome. He's at Hubler Chevrolet. Shout out.
I guess that's a complimentary sponsorship.
Yeah, I have to. I'm just saying, he hooked me up. He was so nice. I just want someone to treat me like a customer. You know what I mean? And just take care of me because it was a big process for me. But no, it's just the fact that they think that we're just there to make a buck and that we're trying to take advantage of them.
Yeah.
That's not the case. You know, I think that specifically jobs that are commission oriented, like you only get paid on commission, like they get cutthroat, which I understand. Everybody's fighting for their next dinner, right? I mean, that's just or feeding their kids. Like there's a reason for it. But with that being said, like we have the opportunity to treat clients in such a different way because that relationship is longer than anything else you're gonna do. I mean, we're gonna sit there and hold your hand for 30 days to get the house closed. Yeah. And that's just the 30 days once we find something and we purchase it and we get to the closing table. That's not including maybe the 6 months we took to find the house. All of that can factor in. You're creating a relationship with somebody. You're seeing this person. You're communicating with them almost at a level that somebody would with an acquaintance or a friend. And so, you know, we're not just in it for the buck. We're in it for the relationship. You know, the money is a byproduct of that. Yeah. Which is beautiful. But, you know, it's just like, that's why I got into it, because I could start those relationships. Like I'm watching my clients have kids or get married on Facebook, and you know, we're saying congratulations and we're talking back and forth like we're friends, because that's what this relationship, or that's what this business starts, is relationships. And I think that a lot of people just see you as a greasy old salesman, and they're just you're just trying to make money. You're just trying to shove them past, you know. I'm going to take you and you're going to make me money, and then I'm going to shove you aside, and then I'm going to go to the next person. And hopefully you'll give me somebody else too, so I can make more money off of you. And that's just not the case with us. You know, I think some people are like that, don't get me wrong. And there's always bad eggs in the bunch that give everybody a bad name, but we're just not that way. And I know so many agents that aren't. You know, there's a huge community of people that are just trying to help families find their next home. And it's such a gratifying thing to be able to get somebody in a place that they're excited about. Yeah, that is. And the process is hard. The process is hard. You need somebody there with you. I mean, I couldn't imagine doing it without an agent. It would be so difficult. I mean, the fact that you can call me any time of day, you know, weekends, nights, all the above. You call me and you're like, hey, this is freaking me out. What do we do about this? And I can sit there and go, it's okay. I do it all the time. We're going to make it through. It makes a big difference. That's good. I've had to do that with a lot of people. I've had, you know, like 45-minute long conversations in the car trying to talk people off the ledge.
Proverbially?
Yes.
Okay. So
no, literally yet.
That's good. That's really good.
It'll probably happen one day, man. It's stressful.
I don't doubt it for a minute. We're considering looking right now. It's kind of based on occupation and region, but we've considered renting, considered buying, and planning on getting married in April, May time frame. So
okay,
scary.
Yeah, it's a lot, man.
Yeah. Well, outside of extending the scope of just real estate to fatherly, entrepreneurial, what do you have an individual piece of advice or anything that you feel would benefit people to know?
Yeah, I would say just like, especially with kind of giving my background and my story, you know, just take a second to step back and just pay attention, you know, and like, don't take advantage of the small moments, the small things, you know, the times that, it's just like the times that like the girls will run into my office and I might be up to my neck busy, but I always try to take the time to take a step back, look at them, and all they ever want is a hug, and they want to tell you that they love you. So why not, instead of going, go to your room, I always make sure to take that time to like bend down, give him a hug, say I love you, send him on, finish my work. It's not going to kill me to take the 30 seconds to spend the time with the girls.
Probably makes their whole day too.
It does. Yeah. The little things like that mean so much to kids, and we just don't think about it. We, take it for granted now that we're adults and we're like, we got stuff to do. Yeah. It's worth it. It's worth it to take the time. Just pay attention.
So I don't know if this is going to be our signature question, but I've been asking it a lot lately. In terms of whenever you personally said that you were going through depression or like in a dark place, right?
Yeah.
I assume there's a lot of negative thoughts that come in those time frames.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people have negative thoughts all the time, whether they're struggling with, chronic depression or whether they are or are not diagnosed. A lot of people have negative thoughts. So do you have a method for handling those or a technique that you've found helpful of getting in and out of those positions?
Yeah. I mean, it's going to sound really straightforward. It's just one word: prayer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what else to tell you. I credit getting through my situation not under my own power, but I got through under God's power, and that's the only way I could have done it. And I had the option to go either way. I could have thrown it back in his face and said it was his fault and mm-hmm. been done, but I knew better, and I was like, I need to find strength in all this, and it made a huge difference. And when those thoughts always creep up, because that's just life, and that's how they try to get you. So, it's really just taking a step back and saying a prayer, because he's there for you. So why not use it?
Nice.
It makes a big difference.
I believe it.
It makes a huge difference.
It's helped me significantly.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Can I get an amen?
Amen. So that is Cole Ankney. We're going to be bringing this to a close. So if you are interested in having a conversation with him about real estate, about entrepreneurship, hard times, whatever that may look like, if you have any comments, questions, concerns for that, you can reach out to him directly at
Coltrane04 at that's my Instagram. And honestly, like, you want to pick up the phone, it's 317-798-9882. Like,
what a nice guy.
I'm not even worried about it.
And for people that just have general comments, questions for these types of podcasts, or if you would like to be on it, if you could recommend somebody, feel free to share it. But also, if you're listening mobily, we have this available on YouTube where you can see the guests. We have comments and things posted up in the video, such as the links to our guest channels or their messaging, or however you want to get a hold of them. All this is available on YouTube. We're also on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and occasionally Facebook. But with that, I really appreciate your time, Cole, coming on and just opening up about your life. I know you guys have your podcast, which I assume you'd like to post up too.
Yeah. Life and Lattes with Livin' Cole.
Mm-hmm.
We've I think we're 26 episodes in. We started in February. So we're just a lifestyle podcast. We have people on kind of like we did today, and from all walks of life. And then some days it's just Liv and I talking about our favorite coffees or fall time. And the last episode we did, we were talking about like the history of the pumpkin spice latte. Yeah. So little things like that.
It's pretty popular. I know a lot of people I don't drink coffee, but I know a lot of people who look forward to the pumpkin spice lattes.
Yeah, it's a big deal. I don't get it, but
yeah.
And we're definitely going to have you on.
Oh, I would really appreciate it.
Yeah, so
it'd be, I don't know. I've never been on the other side of the mic.
Hey, this is my first time on the other side of the mic, so if I could do the same for you, that's perfect, right?
It's like therapy for me. I really like getting to hear people's stories, and I hope people watching, listening do as well. With that, maybe the next time we see each other will be on your episode.
Sounds good, man. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening, guys. Bye.